Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bet the Edge. Thanks, everyone, watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel or listening. It's Thursday, so it's Vaughn and Drew. We got you covered with 8 college football games and a breakdown of a game that I will be at.
Ooh.
Thursday night football between the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. All that and more coming up on Bet the Edge today. Drew, happy Thursday. What it do?
Oh, yeah. I'm fired up, man. There's so much going on right now. It's tough to keep everything straight, watching injury reports for NBA and, trying to keep track of what's going on here as we are late in the season in college football. But I love this time of year. This is absolutely the best. We're starting to get into the absolute meat of the season here. Some of these ranked matchups this week are literally going to truly these are win or go home kind of games. Like LSU, Alabama, loser of that game. What are you playing for the rest of the season? So, there's some super duper high stakes stuff going on right now. And I'm really fired to get up and get into this.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the time of year where all the crazy can happen. Seasons are made and ruined in the blink of an eye in college football. So I'm very excited to see what happens this weekend. We are going for our 6th straight winning week in college football, Drew. So I'm locked in. I got some bets for the show today. Let's kick it off with some Big 12 action because a top 25 matchup is one that I'm kind of up in the air on. Kansas State goes to Texas. Austin, Texas to take on the Longhorns. Horns are laying 4 points, over-under sitting at 50.5. And Kansas State has lost 6 straight versus Texas, the last 5 in Austin. But Quinn Ewers, the quarterback for Texas, is week to week, and he will not likely play in this game. So I'm going to pass. But, Kansas State looks like they have an opportunity for some gold here. Am I right?
They do. But they're going to have to get it done with their run defense, I think. That's sort of the standout unit for this team as I look across their advanced metrics. Really impressive run defense here. And I think that actually kind of marries up well with how Texas would come into a game like this and, in the absence of, Quinn Ewers. So, yeah, Kansas State's live, but the number that stands out to me is under 50.5. Really? We're going to get all the way to 51 points in this contest. Texas's defense is playing a heck of a lot better lately. They've kind of always had a really talented unit there, but you think of a Steve Sarkisian team, defense isn't the first thing you think of, but I have them outplaying Alabama so far this season. I have them kind of on the level with the likes of the Georgias and the Oregons and the UCLAs of the world. So they're a hair below the elite defensively, but they are still very, very good. And so I think the key for Kansas State here is defend the run. Get the ball into the hands of your good rushing offense and see if you can shorten this game, turn it into a team that has the ball last scores type of deal, which I think opens up opportunity for them to steal one.
Yeah, I certainly think this is an opportune game for them to try and get a victory, but Texas, they've looked good. They should be undefeated. It was a situation against Oklahoma, Drew, where the last team that has the ball wins. Same thing with Oregon and Washington. Those big matchups, how it just usually turns out to be that way. But I do think Texas is the best team in the Big 12. I do think they're still better than Oklahoma, even though the Sooners did edge them out early in the season. And the same actually goes for Oregon and Washington, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show. But I lean Texas here. I think they can get the win, but like I said, I think there's much better games to put your actual money on than Texas versus Kansas State. But I like your under look. As an under man, you're not going to talk me off of that one when I see 2 good defenses and 2 rushing attacks that can get by.
Yeah, I think recency is kind of skewing this a little bit because Kansas State is coming off of 2 just absolute thrashings, 41-3, 40 against TCU, 41-0 against Houston. And now you're going up, step up in class. I don't think this is going to be a wide open game for their offense. I think these are going to be 2 pretty run heavy approaches, which will shorten this one naturally. So let's look to try to steal an under here.
Yeah, the Houston Cougars stink, Drew. I still want to get my money back from that stupid Hail Mary earlier in the season against West Virginia. I'm still just flaming at that one. I hate that. All right, let's talk some SEC football, my friend, because these 2 teams have treated me much better this year. Missouri at Georgia. The Bulldogs are laying 15.5, total sitting at 54.5. And I got to say, Drew, Missouri coming off the bye week, they have a chance to shock the SEC and the world. Georgia has one of the hardest schedules remaining in college football. I mean, they got Missouri this week, Ole Miss next week, then they go to Tennessee, and then they go to Georgia Tech. That's 3 ranked opponents in a row for them. I'm feeling like if you want to fade the Bulldogs, you should probably start this week or next week. Am I wrong?
No, I think this is going to be a super fun game. Sneaky good, actually. I think this is probably when you look at the schedule at the beginning of the season, you're like, all right, well, Georgia, another win for Georgia on their march to SEC East dominance. But I like what I'm seeing from Georgia recently. And I think, just in general, the thought is that, Missouri might be a middle of the pack type of SEC team, or maybe even worse. And the fact that they are 7-1, and that they have been a good team against the spread. And you're winning and covering against the likes of the South Carolinas and the Kentuckys of the world is that means something. There's signal there.
Yeah.
You're not just beating up on the Vanderbilts and some of the other non-conference opponents on your schedule. You're beating teams that were rated pretty clearly in the top 25 in terms of power number. And as I rate Missouri right now in terms of power number, I have them pretty clearly in the top 15, actually. This is a big step up. I continue to upgrade them as they win and cover every week. And I think this is going to be probably the toughest test that Georgia has faced so far this season. And actually maybe the toughest test by a lot. And what's funny about Georgia is they're a team that definitely kind of keeps the good plays for the games that matter the most. And I don't know that they really kind of looked at their schedule and saw Georgia and they were like, well, that's the high leverage game we got to win if we're going to go back to the SEC title game. But I think it probably is. And so, they may have something up their sleeve that's kind of a little bit more, just a little bit more of a look that we haven't seen so far this season that could catch Missouri by surprise to a degree. But all that said, I think this is definitely an opportunity to take the dog with the points in a game that I think is going to be a lot closer than the market makes at this point in time. My fair price for this one would be squarely on 14. So anything better than 2 touchdowns, I think you got to ride the dog.
Yeah, I certainly lean Missouri in this matchup too. Like I said, I think this is not a bad game to get involved with to fade Georgia. I think next week against Ole Miss's high octane. Yeah, I mean, I lean Missouri here. Like I said, next week might be a better spot with Ole Miss just because the up-tempo, high-octane offense they run. But Missouri's been really good on the road. I mean, they're 3-0 on the road in neutral field games this season. The lone loss was a home one to LSU, which was kind of funky in the last 2 or 3 minutes of that game. But I think Missouri and Ole Miss do have opportunities here to at least cover, if not win the game against Georgia, Drew. And Georgia was not the number 1 team in the college football playoff polls that just came out for, the 4 teams that get in. Ohio State was number 1. So do you think possibly, because at the beginning of the year, we talked about it. I said Georgia to not win the championship is a good bet if you're getting plus money and to miss the college football playoff. I still think it's possible.
It's possible, but I think a lot of it is really just the strength of their schedule to this point has been really weak. And they are like this next stretch where they got to get, they get Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, bang, bang, bang. They don't get extra rest. 2 of the 3 are at home. But all of these teams they should beat. But these teams are the best teams they've played so far. So there's going to be a pretty decent correction in terms of their strength of schedule after these next 3 games. The problem is that they're all kind of landmines, just like you said. And I think, the fact that you have some pretty disparate looks, you're going to have to prepare for something really different every week is a pretty interesting angle too. So I haven't been blown away by Georgia. The fact that there's no Brock Bowers obviously matters in terms of how you want to rate this team because he was one of, if not the best player in college football before he went down. But at the same time, Oscar Delp has stepped up and, the team, I think, is still pretty clearly a top 4 team. So if, I think you circle that SEC title game. If they lose that one, then they're probably not going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. And if they lose that game, you know who they're going to lose it to.
I'm not sure, actually. Maybe it's this next one is going to tell me, but
Yeah, I mean, let's talk LSU and Alabama then, huh? How about
Yeah.
that? We'll hop into some SEC football still because this game really determines who could be playing Georgia. And I mean,
Yes.
we got the Tide laying 3 points as a favorite, over under 60.5. And Drew, if you're not on social media, which I know you are, but everyone, there's 2 hashtags going around for this game. The
Okay.
first one is hashtag LSU hate week. The second one is hashtag Bama hate week. This is the most hateful game out there right now. And I'm going to be honest, I am the worst Bama backer ever. And I say this all the time, Drew. I think the Tide get it done. I might be cursing
Oh,
them, but I think they get it done.
well, look at you. Okay. All right. So what's fun about this game, and it's very different than the last two,
Yes.
particularly that Texas Kansas State game, because those two teams are really, really similar and like kind of know how that game's going to go. This one, I really don't know how it's going to go because you have an absolute all-time elite offense for LSU with an I don't know what they're trying to do defensively, whereas Alabama has kind of turned into more of like the classic old school Nick Saban Bama teams where they're largely getting it done with defense, and the offense is complementary. And so it's tough for me to say how the styles make fights and who ultimately is going to have control of the game state here. Because if Alabama's defense shows up and they are especially tough, then I would generally think that LSU playing from behind is still live, but a lot more vulnerable. So I would like LSU to take a loss for reasons unrelated to the SEC and largely just knock Jalen Daniels out of the Heisman race. But all that said, this is going to be a really good game, and it's a throwback to what game that this game used to decide pretty much who was going to be your national champion back in the day. So fun that it has this much juice.
I'm going to make the prediction and say that Jalen Daniels exits this game with an injury, Drew, because if you haven't seen the hits this man has been taking this year when he's scrambling, it is insane. I don't know who he thinks he is, but he's not Lamar Jackson. Get down, young fella. But Alabama's defense is going to be here and rowdy. Obviously, the total of 60.5. I thought it would be a little higher, to be honest with you. I thought we would get more respect because Alabama's offense is getting a little better as the season's gone on. Jalen Milroe in particular with the deep balls. And then LSU's offense, obviously one of the best in the country. So I did, I'm an under guy, but I did kind of look towards the 60.5. I was thinking, both these teams can get to 30 easily. It's whether or not Alabama shuts down Daniels and company as they make their trip to Alabama. So anything official for you, or are you just pulling for Bama?
I'm just pulling for Bama. But I like your point though. Like they're 5-0. Their only loss was Texas. That feels like a million years ago.
So long ago.
Yeah, if they sweep the SEC West and if they beat Georgia head-to-head in the SEC title game, then they will be getting an invitation into the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think the SEC is still open. I mean, of course, Georgia, to me, number 1 team. I got Bama, Drew, at number 7, Ole Miss 10, LSU 13, and Missouri 14. And Tennessee in there at 18. So,
well, you're high on Ole Miss. Okay.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss. I got them ahead of Penn State and Notre Dame right now.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, after what happened with Indiana Penn State last week, I don't even want to talk about Penn State, but we will later in the show. We will, sadly. But that's one of my cursed teams too, Drew, the Indiana Hoosiers. You already know that, though. Yes. Let's talk some Big 12 again. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. The Sooners are 6-point road favorites. Total sitting at 61.5, has crept down from 62.5 and 63. So we're getting some money on the under. And the Pokes, the Cowboys, are hot. They've won 4 straight. They beat Kansas State, Kansas, West Virginia, and Cincy right now. I pretty much wrote this team off after they lost to South Alabama and Iowa State. But their running back, Ollie Gordon, man, 214 yards over the last 4 games on average with 9 touchdowns. They are on fire. I kind of lean Oklahoma State as a home dog.
Okay, that's interesting. So the hot Oklahoma State Cowboys have moved themselves into kind of the miasma that is the middle of college football. A group of 5, college football.
They're like the 30 to 50th ranked, for sure.
Yeah, I have them
30, 40.
I have them clustered pretty tightly with Maryland, TCU, Boston College, Washington State, and the University of marquee. Yeah, Boston College is actually rating pretty well so far. So I'm not exactly sure if that's just because of who they played, or I'm trying to adjust for opponents here. So we'll see.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's still kind of a gross little middle class. They're a heck of a lot better than, say, the bottom of the Big Ten. We'll leave that there, but it's still kind of a weird middle class place to be. And I downgrade Oklahoma pretty notably, considering the way they've played the last handful of weeks. It's definitely been, the loss was coming. Hat tip to Kansas for executing, but this is definitely felt like Oklahoma kind of peaked in that Texas game, brought their absolute best performance, and since then it's been a little unimpressive as they've failed to cover now 2 weeks in a row. That said, I still have them clearly better as a team overall, and I think they have a pretty clear advantage in how they want to try to execute their offense. So Oklahoma, for me, offensively, one of the elite passing teams in college football, a little bit below average as far as a rushing team goes. Oklahoma State, absolutely average in terms of rushing defense, but one of the worst passing defenses. So I kind of think this game sets up pretty well for Oklahoma to, if things are going wrong, if they're having trouble getting off the field, if the rushing attack for Oklahoma State comes out hot, you're still in it in terms of a comeback because of your elite passing. But even more than that, like 3rd and long, I think is, benefits Oklahoma. Any type of needing to throw to put the game away benefits Oklahoma. So I agree with the Sooners being favorites here. My number is just right at 6. So I think at 6 I'm passing. But if this drifts down and you can capture 6 and you're as one of the key numbers there, then I would look to play Oklahoma. So what's the case for the Cowboys?
So I think the case for the Cowboys is not only have they been playing a lot better offensively and defensively, but they also did win the last home matchup against Oklahoma. But the reason why this isn't more about why I like Oklahoma State. It's more about the position Oklahoma's in.
Okay.
So Penn State, how they just lost Ohio State, then got surprised by Indiana and failed to cover. Situation where Oklahoma just dropped their first game. Obviously, morale's pretty low. Everyone's thinking, well, now our championship season may be over. Some guys are thinking that, some guys may not be. But they go on the road. It's not like they're lost to Kansas and they come back home in a get-right spot. They're going on the road to their rivals, to an arch nemesis. So that scares me. I don't want to lay a road favorite in a rivalry game off a loss, and they can't afford another loss. It seems like too many things can go wrong for Oklahoma.
Okay. I will say that one of the things that keeps me off this game is some of the health questions swirling around the skill position group for Oklahoma. You lost your tight end for the season. Both your running backs have been banged up and are questionable for this one. So, if the injury news starts to really move this market, then I'm definitely off altogether. But, as far as a spot goes, this is pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think the public are going to be laying on Oklahoma pretty hard here in a bounce-back spot. So I do think this will move out to 6.5 or 7, so you won't get the value that you're looking for in the line moving down, but I could be wrong. We will see. I will note Oklahoma State might be a money line sprinkle for me on the show on Saturday. We shall see. Missouri is definitely one that I'm considering too. And this next team, Drew, I don't know if I can take them as an underdog, but, man, this is a fishy game. I'm talking about the Washington Huskies laying 3.5 at the USC Trojans, total sitting 76.5. Rightly so. USC plays no defense. But, man, Washington has had a very tough stretch where they've won by single digits now in 4 straight games, Drew. I don't know. I'm feeling like Washington's going to lose one of these next 2 or 3 games, and they might lose more than one game.
I hope so. Kind of back to
Ducks. Let's go Ducks.
We need Penix completely out of the Heisman race anytime now. And also, I'll be honest with you, I don't think Washington deserves to be in the college football playoff mix, and so kind of clearing that space and starting to sort out exactly who we want in the Final Four, I think is right. I mean, man, the Ducks really blew it. They should have beat this team. They had them.
Yeah.
They had them.
Management.
And they let them through. They let them slip through their fingers. I think Oregon, from what I can tell you, is the class of the Pac-12, and I think Washington absolutely is vulnerable here and should not be laying points on the road. This is a pick 'em by my numbers. And while USC definitely has been, has been a disappointment this year, a couple of just gross losses. But Utah has kind of had their number. Notre Dame was definitely up for that game. Like, I don't know exactly, that you can completely dock them. And, we know who the USC is. They're absolute misery on defense. Like there's no parsing words. There's no sugarcoating it. They're incredibly poor. The issue is the offense is keeping them in games, finding ways to win, like they did earlier this, the last 3 wins, I think I would key on the one against Colorado, the one against Arizona, the one against California. Like those were close, hard fought games. They found ways to win. I would expect that this is a lot the same. I would expect that, getting a 3.5 is going to be pretty valuable to have that hook.
Yeah, I was thinking this is going to be a 1-possession game, and I don't think the talent levels are that close, but I just think that the way Washington has been playing lately leaves the door wide open for an upset. I mean, they 31-24 over Arizona, 36-33 Oregon, 15-7 Arizona State, and 42-33 Stanford. All those games are single digits, 9 or less points, and now you go on the road to USC. You come back home against Utah. You go on the road to Oregon State. Then you come back home against Washington State. The Huskies are not finishing undefeated. They are definitely going to drop a game here, whether it's this week, next week, or the week after. But I think Washington is a team that you're just going to look at and say, let's play the opposite team money line for the next 3-4 weeks, and we should make some money, and we can stop as soon as they do lose. But if you're on the Huskies bandwagon, the best way to probably play them, Drew, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, would be the team total over. 4 of the last 5 teams USC played allowed 41 or more points, 36.6 points per game in that span, and Washington's team total sit between 39.5, 41.5. You like that? If you're liking Washington.
Yeah, I mean, Washington is, I guess a question for you, just out of curiosity. Do you have Washington offense rated better than USC's offense? Because I actually have USC's offense is slightly better.
Yeah, I mean, I have said all year, USC's offense, no matter how bad the defense is, the offense is top 3 in the country. And I'll stand by that. Too. I mean, Caleb Williams, no matter what happens, he could still be a number 1 pick in my book. And I think that's right.
Okay. So that's what you realistically, that's what you need to get a Washington team total over home. That this is a score and answer type of fest, not a run and hide. Get out of here with a win.
I mean, if it's a defensive battle, I sure hope the Huskies are winning by 3 touchdowns.
The problem is then do they keep their foot on the gas, or do they just try to get out of Dodge and
USC would be a great live bet for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, this is the season, ladies and gentlemen. It's week 10 of college football. There are going to be upsets galore going on. So definitely don't just be taking favorites thinking that they have a lot to play for. But if you have questions on games, make sure you come through. The betting Q&A on Saturday, November 4th, 11 a.m. It's Eric Froton, myself, and we actually have 2 special guests coming on the show because Brad Thomas just had a baby. Congratulations, Brad. We miss you. But the Pac-12 showdown is Heisman favorite Michael Penix in Washington against Heisman winner of last year, Caleb Williams of USC, which we just broke down. And we're liking the Trojans. We'll see if I still feel that way on Saturday. But, right now, leaning the Trojans, Drew. That is crazy to say because this team burned me too many times. But Saturday should be interesting. We got Sia Najad and Meg McDonald coming on.
Cool.
And we hit our People's Parlay last week. They'll have to bring it with us this week. So I can't wait to see what they have in store. But let's talk some Big Ten football because this is the part of the show where we just go and we win all our bets. Big Ten football, that's us, baby. No problems asked. Penn State's laying 10.5 at Maryland, over under 50.5. I'm not going to lie. Oh, it's actually come down to 10 now. Money coming in on Maryland. I like Maryland. Penn State did not look good at all last week.
Yeah, Penn State's offense has fallen fast.
Crumbled.
And I don't really know that there is a clear and easy way to arrest this. A couple of weeks in a row, we've talked about how James Franklin has kept his foot on the gas, making them an okay team to lay the points on. Well, they haven't even really had the opportunity to put the foot on the gas because they've been fighting for their lives. And it has been tough to watch, honestly. I think Penn State is starting to kind of proved to have been a little bit overrated. Maybe the teams that they beat in the early part of the season just weren't playing especially well at the time, or maybe they're just not very good. But I look at their schedule now, and I don't even know what win on their schedule to this point of the season I'm especially impressed with. West Virginia, miserable. Illinois, miserable. Iowa, miserable. Northwestern, miserable. Massachusetts, miserable. Like this is a team that may not necessarily have it when it comes to taking on decent competition. And again, Maryland's not necessarily good. They're smack dab in sort of the middle class of Power 5 football, but their defense is average and their offense is above average. Their offense has, some signs of life in terms of passing. And I think that actually sets up a decent opportunity for them to be able to convert third downs and for them to get some early scores and maybe put a little bit of pressure on Penn State here. Maryland bringing the better offense into this contest, I don't really think is a question. The issue is Penn State's defense overrated because the teams they played were kind of just an entire class below. And I think that's what we're going to find out this week, because an upset win here for Maryland, I don't think would actually be that shocking.
No, not at all. And I'm actually considering going to this game on Saturday.
Okay.
It's like a 2.5 hour drive for me. And I'm like, do I want to drive 5 hours to bet an underdog to win outright and then to lose? I don't know, because I don't want Maryland to lose if I bet them. But these are two defenses, Drew, that are top 30 in rushing defense, third down defense, and scoring defense. Maryland, not as bad as they've been in the past defensively. So I definitely looked at the total 50.5 and thought an under is probably in play here. When I spoke to my coworker, Eric Froton, who will be on the Saturday show, he liked the over in this one. But I think this is just a lot of biasy from early in the season when we saw both these teams looking, like you said, how good we think they are, but they're just playing bad teams. They're simply just playing bad teams. And now you're getting to the part of the year where everyone's got you figured out. There's enough film on you, and there's also been injuries and things that have happened. But you don't let Indiana score 24 on you in Happy Valley, and you turn around and you blow out Maryland on the road.
Yeah,
I don't think that happens.
The under you make actually a really good case for, and a really good point that I would like to bring up here. In all of the competitive games on Maryland's schedule this year, just based on like what was the line going into it, they've cruised under. Like the games that are going over that Maryland plays are the ones where they're like 25 to 40 point favorites, right? Like, so when it's expected to be close for whatever reason, Maryland does play 2 and under. And I would actually say that similarly for Penn State. Penn State's games where they were 4-point dogs, 4 to 14-point favorites, all 3 went under this season. So you got a little double signal there with both of these teams that when the going is tight, the game goes under.
I like that. I like that look a lot. Yeah, I'm going to have to consider the under for sure. I think Maryland's going to be in my money line sprinkle segment. I don't know if I'm going to get to the window totally at the 10 or 10.5, but I certainly lean it. I think Maryland can beat Penn State, and this could be this is the best Maryland team we've seen in 10, 15 years, I'd have to say, Drew. So I do like the Terps, and I'm not going to lie. Start off 0-4 on Saturday last week, end up finishing 5-5, plus money, got positive winnings, but Penn State made me take a nap. I put a lot of money and a lot of stock into Penn State against Indiana, and I ran my mouth on them, and they
heartburn. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That wasn't like a 30-minute nap. It was like 2-hour nap because I woke up and went back to sleep. So I was mad. But we're getting our money back this weekend, and I know it. And I like Iowa at Northwestern because why, Drew? The total is 31. I was laying 5. The total actually opened at 29.5 here. This is a neutral field game. They're playing at Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs, which, in my opinion, makes it even better bet for the under, right?
I don't know. Is the wind blowing out?
I don't know. I don't think it mattres. Neither team can throw.
Hey, look, all I know about Wrigley Field and totals is you bet the over when the wind's blowing out, Vaughn. So I have no idea how to handicap the wind situation there for this game. But I can tell you it's not going to be especially windy in Chicago on Saturday. We're looking at 57. It actually looks like a kind of a nice-ish day. Only 21% chance of rain, mostly cloudy, and the wind is going to be in the 9 to 10 mile an hour ballpark. So not a big factor. That said, it shouldn't shouldn't matter because neither of these teams can really pass anyway. Right now, I'm hearing that the Northwestern quarterback, their starting quarterback, whose name is escaping me, Bryant. Yes, he's doubtful. So they will probably be down to, was it QB3 now? And he's not very good. So I think ultimately this is a decent one to not watch unless you really like to see like a low total and you want to sweat out and under. This is under or past surely at 31. We've had a lot of wild low totals in the Big Ten so far this year, and a lot of those have been because of Iowa. Iowa's offense is setting it's kind of breaking a lot of the models that I use to come up with how you get a fair rating. They're like off the charts in terms of having a bad offense. And, the fact that their defense is as good as it is the only reason that, that these guys are, worth tuning into on a given night. I would currently make Iowa's defense number 4 in the country, but their offense is last among all Power 5 programs. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Maybe Iowa's offense looks better after they fired Kirk Ferentz's son, the OC, Brian. He said he was shocked of the ousting. He was stunned by the ousting of his son. Oh yeah, nepotism will do that to you. We're going under 31 points here. Yeah, Northwestern's 0-3 on the road, 7, 9, and 14 points in those 3 games. Okay. Iowa scored 71 points in their last 5 games, 14.2 in that span. And better yet, in 5 of the last 6 matchups between Iowa and Northwestern, the losing team has scored 10 or fewer points 5 out of 6 times. So maybe even a trifecta, team total unders all across the side and the under. But don't expect many points to be scored in this one. And the last college football game on our schedule, Drew, is an easy one. It's the Peacock NBC game of the night, 7:30, Purdue at Michigan. Wolverines laying 32.5, over/under sitting at 50.5. And you already know I'm going Purdue team total under 7.5. The books were stupid enough to give us another 7.5 against Michigan. They are 7-1 to the team total unders to the oppositions. And Purdue sucked last week. 3 yards per pass attempt, 195 total yards at Nebraska, a team that was down over 15 players. All right, Purdue stinks. Let's go Michigan.
Yeah, so Michigan's coming off of extra rest. The program itself has been getting beat up online. The scandal that's going on right now is just it's delightful. As someone who likes chaos in the college football space, it has been delightful. But no, Michigan has the number 1 defense in the country right now. You can if you want to argue Ohio State has number 1, Michigan's number 2. I won't really fight you on that, but they're pretty unfreaking believable, and their offense is has been solid. I don't think that they stand up to some of the other like truly elite offenses in the country, but boy, oh boy, can they run the football. And their passing has been very, very efficient, if not spectacular. So this is a pretty clear, Wolverines are pass. And I think, I guess as I look at who is Purdue, like who do they compare to? What is a reasonably fair comparison in terms of what they're good at, offense and defense? And the closest team I have to Purdue is actually Northwestern. Like I have those 2 teams as they're virtually identical, and we don't have a signal on Northwestern so far this year. But I do think that their offense is very, very comparable to Minnesota and Rutgers. And Minnesota and Rutgers obviously had extremely tough time scoring on this Michigan defense. And so I think this game and Purdue's team total staying in the single digits is likely. And for those reasons, I think 32.5 probably gets there.
Yeah. This total moved from 48.5 to up to 50.5 too. So that would signify probably people believe Michigan's going to blow this one open. And Purdue scored 14 or less in 3 straight against Iowa, Ohio State, and Nebraska. Those are 3 physical opponents. Now you get Michigan off the bye week at home. Wolverines, baby, or pass all day. And if they are cheating and stealing signs, we got Purdue signs down packed, baby. They're not scoring a point. So not a big problem. Before we get to NFL, there's a big Sunday night football game, Drew. Two of the
Yes.
NFL's best quarterbacks face off this week on Sunday Night Football. Don't miss Josh Allen and the Bills facing off against Joe Burrow and the Bengals in Cincinnati. Coverage of the AFC clash begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. I don't know if you have a bet in that game, but I might have to steal someone else's pick, Drew, because I can't decide. That's a tough one.
I do have that one dialed in, but tune in
All
tomorrow
right,
to
what do you
find
got?
out.
Oh, okay, tune in tomorrow. I'll tune in
I'll tell you
tomorrow.
off air. I'll tell you off air, but
Okay.
I got that one solved.
All right, cool. I'll tune in anyways too because I want to hear all about it. I need help, but I don't need help on Thursday Night Football, baby, because honestly, let me go ahead and just take this off the wall right here. Go ahead and just put this around my neck. Steelers hosting the Titans. Here we go. The Steelers are going to win this game, Drew. They're laying 2.5 to 3 points.
Yep.
Total sitting at 36 to 36.5, depending on where you shop. And honestly, man, Will Levis, congratulations for the terrific game you just put together. 238 yards, 4 touchdown passes on the Falcons. You broke up with your girlfriend about a week before that, and you certainly took it out on the field. But now you got a short week on the road against the most physical defense arguably in the NFL and a coach who thrives off double-digit losses, 17-5 against the spread at home after a loss of 10 or more points. That is Mike Tomlin. I'm all over the Steelers money line, Drew. Tell me why I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, the Titans are drawn dead.
Let's go.
I say that somewhat facetiously. My fare on this game is 4. I think the fact that you have the Titans traveling on a short week with a young quarterback is not good for them. I think the Will Levis tape, the more I looked at it, there were clearly some flashes, right? Like the big time throws were clearly there. In fact, there was a couple big time throws that the Titans receivers dropped, but the Titans receivers can't really get separation, and without pushing off. At least I saw that, Hopkins. But ultimately, I think the key issue for Levis is that he was under duress a lot, and he was not especially escapable in terms of avoiding the pressure. And for kind of all of those reasons, I think the Steelers are going to be able to kind of stop, just have sort of chaotic game-stopping plays, game-stopping sacks, and maybe even a couple of turnovers and some short fields. The issue with laying points with the Steelers that I think the market in general is having a little bit of a tough time with, because we've seen this kind of get batted back and forth between 2.5 and 3. And usually when a number moves to 3, like that's it. Like this is the move. This is right. But there's been resistance here. And it's because of Pickett, and because Pickett's going to be playing through this injury, and because Pickett's been a little uninspiring this season. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with him, but he's got Deontay Johnson back at least, and he's got some awesome chemistry with George Pickens, and so I think if they can provide him with a time to operate in the pocket, which they should, because for what it's worth, the Titans' defense has been way inferior relative to what we thought they were going to be this year. Other than Jeffrey Simmons, there's not a standout to be had on that entire unit. Rush defenses regressed significantly, and the pass defense can still be had. So I think the Steelers can have a little bit of a coming out party offensively in this contest, and I think they can get a win outside of 3. So don't mind laying 2.5 with Pittsburgh.
15 takeaways for that Steelers defense, man. I think we're going to get a few more on Thursday night. It's also going to be freezing cold, like 20 to 30 degrees. Everybody's complaining about the weather here, but I think it also makes for a decent bet on the under. I mean, I wouldn't talk anyone off the under. Both teams are combined 11-3 to the under this year. Obviously, Levis doesn't have much experience. As you mentioned, Kenny Pickett, not the ideal quarterback to be betting for an over this season. But I'm still riding with my guy here. And I'll throw this out there, Drew, before you want to wrap up your thoughts on this game. I have obviously been the biggest Deontay Johnson hater as a Steelers fan. I do not like him that much. I don't want him on the team much longer, but this week, Deontay is about to pop off. Him complaining about the refs, saying that they lost in that game, even though the refs didn't lose him that game. I think that he's gonna take it to heart and come up and play on the field. And Kenny Pickett was getting Deontay the ball a lot more often, and they're trying to work on that chemistry here. So I actually like the Steelers. I mean, a lot in this game. Obviously, I'll be there repping them, but I think Kenny Pickett and Deontay. I think Deontay finds the end zone, man. I'm sprinkling the touchdown. Let's go.
Okay.
That's
I dig
fine.
it. Yeah, I didn't understand what he was talking about at all. I was like, I like that game.
Yeah.
What is like? There's been a couple of games this year where I've been like, all right, refs had a little bit of a finger on the scales there. I didn't
They
see it
like the
at all.
Steelers.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Every questionable turnover this year has gone the Steelers' way,
Yeah,
and I'll be
well,
the first one to say that. So,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know what Deontay was talking about much. There's a couple calls where I'm like, you could have let that slide, but who doesn't think we could let things slide in the NFL when it comes to refereeing?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course. So, Drew, favorite look of the day, which you gave out on the show?
Okay. I'm gonna go with the man. This is always tough, and it always catches me by surprise. I'm gonna take the 15.5 points with Missouri. I think Missouri's for
Ooh,
real, and I think they're gonna make this one competitive.
yeah.
I ultimately think they lose, but 14 is my fair, and that's my biggest difference relative to market. So let's go Tigers.
I like that.
How about you?
I'll sprinkle the Tigers with you too. NFL, obviously Steelers best bet. I
Okay.
think they get it done, and I like the Iowa Northwestern under. Man, I like being disgusting, grimy, and just hating the game I'm watching. But the under's been profitable, man. We're hitting 63% in college football. We're gonna keep playing our unders. And if you guys didn't know, Army and Air Force play football this weekend. There's
Oh, they
another
do?
under for you. Yeah, they do. The total was 36, Drew. It's down to 31.
Why do they open them so high? They know it's coming.
Because
They know the
yeah,
under money is coming
I don't know,
every
man. I
time.
think
They
they
know
just
it's
want to
coming.
reward the people like us who are like, we wait, like we put the notes in our phone that say, hey, 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, look for Army versus Air Force.
Do you think they think it scares off some of like the middle sharp money? You know, like the
uh,
middle class sharp money. They're like, God,
yeah,
man, it's already moved 5 points. I can't bet an
yeah.
under. It's
I
moved
mean,
5 points.
I put it on X at 33 and a half. And I mean, I played a little 35. I missed the 36. And then someone said, oh, you're giving it 33 and a half. It was already 36. Now it's down to 31. And I said, and I'd still play the 31.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going under. They close the closing lines go under. That's
yeah, and you know, if you dig into that one a little bit, the state of the Army offense is not good. I mean, realistically, like you're going to be sweating like Air Force scoring a fifth touchdown. That's kind of
yeah.
where you're at in this game.
Yeah, I agree too. I was kind of thinking Air Force with the points, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to continue to be disgusting and take the under because it just works out every time for me. All right. So, everyone, we appreciate you guys listening and watching. Hopefully, you're going to make some money with us as always on your college football Saturdays and your Thursday night football. For Drew Dinsick, I'm Vaughn Dalzell. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more info to help you with your wagers. We appreciate you watching our NBC Sports on YouTube channel. And if you're listening in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. And make sure you check us on Amazon Music, amazon.com/NBC Sports. Thank you, producer Dan, for holding us down. For Drew and Vaughn, we'll see you next time. Go Steelers, baby. Here we go.